Hi, it's Zoe from Squeaky Chimp here, and as requested, I'm going to show you how I make these customised beads. So these aren't beads that have come from pre-printed paper. They are beads that I have designed the paper myself, and it's a lot easier than it sounds. So we're going to crack on. So what you need first of all is you need a sheet of pre-printed triangles. This just makes it a lot easier to cut afterwards because these are quite small beads. They're going to make beads in the range of this sort of size. And I will put a link at the bottom on the description as to where you can find this paper. This is paper I've come up with. It's a PDF file, so it's really easy to print. You can also print it onto the back of printed paper as well, so that you can then cut that out. But we're going to use this today. And what you need to do is you need to turn it over because you don't want to be colouring on the triangular side. So you just want the plain side, and you need to choose some pens that you want to use. So the strips are going from that way to that way, but then they're also going from that way to that way. So you need to think about what kind of colouring you want to do. So I've got this spare bit of paper here because if I go over, it doesn't matter. So then you just start colouring in, and I've chosen some Sharpie pens just because you get a nice vibrant colour with them, and they just give good coverage. They give the kind of coverage I like. It's not a complete block coverage, and also they're not too wet as well, because some pens, if you coloured in this much, would make your paper quite wet and you'd need to wait for it to dry. So you colour in as much as you want, and then pick your next colour and colour in, making sure that you've gone all the way to the edge. If you want to go into the other colour and blend in a little bit, then do, and just colour until you have coloured the whole sheet. I'm not going to show you how to completely colour the whole sheet because I think you kind of get the idea behind that. So what I am going to do is I'm going to show you one that I have done earlier in True Blue Peter style. So this is one I've coloured in earlier, and for this one I chose these colours. So I went with red, I went with orange, I went with this sort of salmony peachy colour, and yellow. The red is quite a strong colour, so I've done less red than I have of the yellow. So, and this is the most exciting bit. This is the bit where we get to cut up. So you need a pair of scissors. I prefer to use scissors for this rather than a paper cutter, because I just find, because they are such small little triangles that we're chopping off, it's much easier to get a control. And what you'll also notice is on this page, actually let me get the plain one, that might be easier for you to see. So on the plain one, what you'll notice is that actually at the bottom it doesn't go completely down, and at the top as well, if I bring it down, you can see that the triangles don't go completely up. I don't worry about that because actually I'm just going to cut them up because I'm going to just use my eye to follow it. So we need to cut off this first strip at the edge, like so. Just making sure I am in camera for you. Starting at the bottom, just going to cut off this first strip, which we don't need. I say we don't need, we can always use it. We can always use it to make spare beads. And then I'll cut my first strip up. So I'm going from the bottom and I'm just eyeballing where the triangle would be. Like that. So that is my first strip. So for these little beads, I'm going to be using a 1.5mm tool. And again, I'm going to put the link at the bottom in the description as to where you can get them from. You can get them in my Etsy store, or you can get them on my eBay store. But these are really handy little things to have, especially when you're doing something so small. And the reason I like making these small beads is because they do fit really nicely onto memory wire, onto beading elastic, all sorts of things. So you pop it in the little slot at the bottom, and then you just start rolling it. So you just want to hold it in place to begin with. And I'm going to make, for this one, I'm going to make bicomb beads. So I want my beads to be rolling in the middle. So I want to keep this strip of paper in the middle. Which, when you're trying to do it at an angle on camera, is never that easy. There we go. And this is the bit I love, because this is the bit where it's like magic, where you see where your colouring and the colours that you've chosen just come to life, because now we've got the reds coming through, we've had the other colours, and you need to just add a little dab of glue and just a little dab of glue. And I'm just going to run the rest of that glue round, and there we go, there's your bead. So I'll just bring it up a bit closer to the camera, which is there, so I hope you can see the little bead. And what I've got here is I've got one, and I coloured this one in a little bit darker. I actually did this one individually, so this one actually has a much darker colour. So you can colour your sheet in, if I get my sheet here, you can colour this in a lot darker if you want to, and you end up with a bead that's got a much more kind of distinctive colour. But I actually quite like this sort of mottled effect, which I hope you can see on camera. So I'm going to pop that bead off, and as you can see, when I did this one, my first colour was the red one and my last colour was the yellow one. On this one, it's the other way round, because on each strip, depending on which way you cut it, will depend on which end you have. So I've got yellow at the bottom and I've got red at the top. So I'm just going to pop this bead off nice and gently. And what I like to do is have some of this nylon line. It's 0.5mm nylon line. And I stick a spare surplus bead. I just tend to make these out of things like this, you know, the scrap bits. Pop it on some nylon line, and then once I've made my beads, I string them on. Then they're not going to roll off anywhere. Keep them on here, and then they are ready to dip in whatever glaze I choose to use. And I tend to put the whole lot into it and then string them up to dry. This one I have glazed really quickly with some clear nail polish, just because I wanted to show you what it looked like once it was glazed. So just pop that one in there. So that is how you would make your own customised beads. And just to give you an example of what some of the other ones we've made looks like, I put this out. This is a great project for kids to do as well, because they can colour in their page and then they get their own beads. So these are some of the other beads, if you can see these, I hope. So this is some pink ones. These are some green ones which my daughter did, and we made a bracelet out of them, if you can see those. These ones as well have been coloured in really subtly as well. So you can do subtle or you can go bold. You know, this one is quite a different look. So that is how you make your own customised beads, and with whatever colour you want. I hope that's helpful.